Hey, what's up, Internet? I thought I would do kind of, I don't know what you would call it, a post mortem of a failed illustration or a failed drawing. Um, so this drawing, I got done with it, and I was forcing myself to finish it, and I don't know why. And I think this is why. I think it's because there's a lesson to be learned here, multiple lessons probably for me of why this failed. So I kind of took some notes for myself, asking myself the question, why did this drawing fail? Because if you look at an illustration, you should just be, at the very least, indifferent. You should just look at it and be like, oh, it's an illustration, and then you move on with your day. Or, hopefully you can look at the illustration and be like, oh, I like that, or ooh, that's compelling, or ooh, da 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 da. You know, whatever positive feelings or thoughts you can have. But with a bad illustration, you want to look away. and You can click away if you want. But I can tell you're sitting at home or wherever you're sitting watching this video, if you're watching it, and you're thinking, man, that's a painful illustration to look at. But I think there's lessons to be learned. And I think the main lessons are some technical things and then some narrative things, because every illustration has a narrative. Every illustration has like a story, unlike just regular art, which kind of exists in its own little, microcosm, its own little world. Illustration has a story, and that's what makes it so fun to look at. But so I think this failed on a technical level, and this failed in a narrative level. I think are the two things. So let's break it down. And I think there are some positives to the drawing, but I'm not going to focus on those. So it doesn't work. Like it's just, you can't, like I said, I think my original thesis, an illustration should at least be indifferent to it. You should look at it and be like, okay, whatever. You shouldn't have like a visceral gut reaction if I don't like that, which is what I get when I look at this drawing. So I think some of the things are, this is in no particular order, but the eagle's poorly rendered. Okay, so I did it in pencil, and then I watercolored it and I erased the pencil, which I don't think that's the problem. I think the problem is I just didn't take the time to get any back feathers. There's just a lot of stuff missing from the eagle. The human figure is very unrealistic, right? Like, there's something about, like, you have to get human figures perfect because everybody knows what a person looks like, right? It either has to be perfect if it's supposed to be realistic, or it has to be very cartoony, like a circle head. Like, you can get away with like a head like this, and it's whatever, then add some hair, some ears, like that's fine. Your little body, like this is more pleasant to look. It's not very pleasant to look at, but it's still more pleasant to look at than this. Just looking at this little silly head, like it works more than this. And why is that? Well, because this was a failed attempt at realism, right? The legs are like this. This is a fail. This is a fail. The hands, they're no good, right? Well, the hands, they're okay, but whatever. The face isn't pulling it together. It's just the legs are too long. The head's a little too small if it's going to be a kid, but then it also, like these two parts, I'll call this first and second part, these two parts don't jive of the human figure. So there's that. The guitar idea was stupid. This is a stupid idea. I shouldn't have done this. Like, the narrative is so thrown by this idea of a hawk. Like, if it was just a hawk and a dude, okay, that's probably fine. That probably wouldn't be as like, right? But now there's three elements. I think maybe that with illustrations you should only have at most two elements, excluding backgrounds and whatever. But here we have one element, our weird hawk. Two, why does he have a guitar? And then three, a person. There's probably some kind of story happening here, but it's very confusing. Because narratively, we'll get into the narrative side of things, he's just staring blankly at the hawk, which would have been fine if it was just a hawk. Like, exclude the guitar. Like, here, remove the guitar from the equation. It's a dude looking at a hawk. That's kind of cool, whatever. But then that guitar is just like, bleh. It just gives you that gut feeling of, why am I looking at this? I don't want to look at this. He's not reaching out. Like, maybe if he was reaching out, like, I don't know, like, oh, the guitar, right? His other hand's over here balancing him out, right? I mean, that kind of works, right? But this doesn't work. Okay, so we failed on a technical aspect. I messed up the hawk. The figure doesn't look very good. Part of that is I just rushed into it. I did the pencils. I did the pencil drawing, and then I jumped into the watercolor, and I didn't stop and look at the figure. Like when you draw a human figure, like say you're just gonna draw like a person standing, right? Okay, we got a person stand. Here's the head, shoulder. You know, one leg. We'll have one leg up, kind of like this same thing. Leg back. You know, maybe the arms kind of crossed over, resting on the leg. This other arm is down here. Okay, the pose, whatever. It's not the best, but after you draw the figure, you have to stop, look away, refocus your mind, look back, and that'll kind of reset you out of artist mode, which is just depressed and hateful. You hate yourself and everything, and kick you back into human mode, because when you look at human figures, you have to be in human mode. And I can immediately say, okay, this leg looks weird, looks like it's bent funny, so okay, we'll add a pant leg, whatever. There's a million little ways to fix it, right? So there's that. I jumped ahead too far with the human figure. Failed there. So the few things that do work, I really like these Chinese style mountains. Okay, that's all that worked. Anyways, maybe you learned something, maybe you didn't. Maybe you just listened to somebody hate on themselves for a while, which I think is useful. You know, if somebody's hating on themselves, and that kind of triggers that, you know, the empathy part of ourselves. So I don't know. But yeah, I think this is a good way to grow as an artist, is to recognize what isn't working, so you can not repeat it. Hopefully. Again, maybe this drawing would literally just be fixed by just having the hawk and the guy. Well, the hawk, yeah, okay. Here's the elements that I think work. The hawk's not rendered well, but at least it's not too ugly. The bottom half of the human figure looks terrible. Like, if this was just the drawing, just that, I think would be okay. But then, just, it's almost, you can almost feel that, like, too much flood of information, right? Like, why is a guitar there? Blah, blah, there's so many things. Anyways. Thank you for your time. Hope you have a great day. Take care of yourself. Be kind to strangers and children and small animals, and be kind to your family if you can. Hope you can do something that helps you relax. Hope you can do something that keeps you happy and healthy. And you have a good one. Bye bye.